Let's begin. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So in this part, we will focus on, so what was the thing? Prophet is now coming together with his companions in Dar Al-Arqam. We established that, right? And this is going to take for how long? 6.5 years. So if you count everything, closer to 6.5 almost. So who are those people, right? Who is coming together with the Prophet ﷺ in Dar Al-Arqam? Demographic of those first believers. So inshallah, we will focus on this in this part of the presentation. So in terms of number of the first Muslims, the number by the time we reach the end of Dar Al-Arqam, right, 6.5 years, we can talk about more than 200 people, 200 to 300. I'm still working, digging that mine in the sources to, precisely find out how many people are the first believers. But roughly speaking, we know by name over 200 people, confidently. So one thing that we need to establish first before analyzing the members of Dar Al-Arqam, Prophet ﷺ did not accept every single believer to Dar Al-Arqam. Part of his strategy. So let's say Abu Dar Al-Ghifari, this famous companion, right? He and his brother, he embraced Islam very early on in the first year. And he was very, very excited because he was in search of haqq, in search of truth. And when he embraced Islam, he wanted to go out and declare and, publicly announce everything, call people to this, so exciting because Islam is very exciting. When you taste this beauty, you can't stop. You have to share with someone. It's so nice. So he was in that mode, but their story is long. He went to Kaaba, he started to announce, and he was harmed. The Bani Taym tribe or Abbas ibn Abdul Muttalib intervened, and ultimately he came to the Prophet ﷺ. Prophet said, go back to your hometown, your village. Do not come until you hear that we are out there in the society. He sent him back. He didn't accept him to Dar Al-Arqam because the profile that he's bringing people together is different, because the strategy he's utilizing is not fitting. So that's why he was asked to go back. Another example, and this example marks the end of Dar Al-Arqam period, which happened shortly before the house was known by Meccans. The conversion of whom? Umar ibn al-Khattab, right? Umar radiallahu anhu's conversion, when he embraced Islam, Dar Al-Arqam period ended. That story and why it ended is very long because 3 days after this, boycott started. So they can't come together anyway. Dar Al-Arqam is not part of that valley, right? They are here in boycott. Arqam's house is here. Logistically, it's not possible. They can't go out, right? So there are some various other reasons, but let's come to the story because there's something important there. When Umar is very anxious, the background of that is, there are sequence of events in those days. First, on Monday, sources say that Hamza converted to Islam, Monday. On Tuesday, Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu and the Prophet was attacked. On Monday, Prophet was attacked too. On Wednesday, Umar is going to convert to Islam. We know those days. So many details are there in the sources. So the conversion story for Umar radiallahu anh, he is they are very much annoyed. A lot happened in Mecca. So many people, they went to Abyssinia and they couldn't stop that. The message is spreading. They are oppressing these people, physically insulting them, harassing, persecution. They can't stop, literally. And now the message is out in Abyssinia even. It's much safer. Even if you kill everybody here, that's what they told in Dar al-Nadwa. Still, this is going to continue because he took them out. So, and then shortly after this, Hamza embraced Islam, the lion of Mecca, very powerful figure. They started to attack the Prophet, put a lot more pressure. They attacked Abu Bakr radiallahu anh, physically, and they left him because they thought he is dead. At that moment, on that day, Prophet on that night in Dar Al-Arqam, according to Khabbab ibn Arat, he made supplication. So you can understand where these things reached. When Prophet is raising his hands, Ya Allah, support this religion with one of the Amrs. One Amr is Abu Jahl, one Amr, Umar is same word. In Arabic, it is Umar ibn al-Khattab. So if one of these two people are going to embrace Islam in Mecca, both are from Bani Makhzum. Ultimately, he is from Bani Adi, which is a sub-clan of Bani Makhzum tribe. That means nobody can stop this anymore. It's a very important day because tension is also escalated. On that day, Meccans, they decided to kill the Prophet. We are not talking about the thing. We are not talking about the Hijrah night. This is the 6th year. Almost 7 years before Hijrah. They decided to kill. The following day, they were going actually to implement that decision. Bani Hashim tribe, as a tribe, 30 men led by Abu Talib, they protected the Prophet. They said, if you continue, this is going to be a war. So they stopped. So these things are escalating to that moment. And Umar radiallahu anh, he made a decision, I'll do it myself. Not collectively we are going to do it. I'll solve this problem in Mecca. He is always a problem solver. Umar's character is very different. So, it's another chapter of the book that we should talk probably later. But he really says this disunity reached a point, we need to find a solution. I will do it myself. So he took this on himself to solve this problem in Mecca. So he's heading now on those streets towards this house. He learned some stuff. Things are getting, to be known. This is destiny, qadar as well. It will be known anyway. So somebody said that, where are you going, Ya Umar? He said, I'm going to solve this problem. He said, look at your house first. Look at your household. Solve the problem in your household first. So what do you mean? Your sister, Jamil, Fatima bint Khattab. There are two Jamils. One is Abu Lahab's wife, one is this lady. One is Muslim, one is arch enemy in a way. So he said, look at your sister's house. Fatima bint Khattab and her husband, Sa'id ibn Zayd. They are also Muslim. This person who is telling this is also a Muslim. So he kind of protected. But he is aware of that supplication probably. Like he's pressing the right button, right? Umar is one of those arms. Yesterday, Prophet ﷺ prayed for. So he changed his way to the house of Sa'id ibn Zayd. So their house, it was in the other map actually. We can't spot it here. Oh, it's here. So it's not that far. He just directed to here, like going there, directed to here. So he's now, he just about to enter the house, he heard a voice. Shortly before this, Surah Taha revealed. Taha ma anzalna alayk. Extraordinary. Like if you know Arabic, just listen. You will submit that this is so powerful. It talks about the names of Allah, talks about the Prophet ﷺ, that, this was revealed to him for a reason, not to harm him, put a burden on his shoulder. So story is long, he realized that they are even reciting the Qur'an. He attacked Sa'id ibn Zayd even against the norms. He attacked his sister. Meccans, even in Jahiliyyah, they humiliate women, but they don't harm women. That's a very different mindset. It is a belittlement for that man to raise his hand to a woman. It's not honorable action in their mindset. So he even hit his own sister, Fatima. He said, we are Muslims, do whatever you want. That's a very different woman response in Mecca as well. Like normal woman wouldn't do that in Mecca. She started to think, and blood is coming out from her face. Said, bring that thing you were reciting. And and they asked him to take ablution, that's ghusl, that was known to Meccans, by the way. And once he started to read, Allah opened his heart. So he started to ease as well. And by the end of it, he embraced Islam. And a man appeared behind the wave. So Khabbab came out and he said, Bushra leke ya Umr, glad tidings to you, ya Umar. The supplication of Prophet is accepted for you. So he made supplication. And we see from this incident clearly that, Sa'id ibn Zayd and his wife are not allowed to go there. Khabbab is appointed as a teacher for them. Not everybody is coming to Dar Al-Arqam, but Prophet ﷺ is utilizing a strategy. He has kind of group leads. He grouped people. Umar radiallahu anh, in Ibn Hajar's book, he says, when someone embraced Islam, dammaha Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam ila fulan. He would appoint this person to this person. So he will have one-on-one kind of allocation, assignment. This person, you are in charge of this person. Few leaders are coming together in Dar Al-Arqam. They are taking the message and they are responsible to teach what they have learned from the Prophet to those people. This is how this house can be concealed as well. If everyone, let's say Sa'id ibn Zayd and Fatima is going to go there, so that basically means Bani Makhzum tribe, someone will spot them. Like Umar is from same tribe, as we said, Abu Jahl is from same tribe. Someone is going to know them. The fact that they are Muslim is good, like some of the neighbors are good. The house is also protected, but they are not entering that house. It's not visible. Certain people are allowed to come. Remember the story of Abu Zar. From this story, there are some other examples. I just gave one. So that basically means we need to work on people who are allowed to enter this house. So when you make that analysis, we see that about 45 people are certainly part of this engagement. They are group leaders, if you like, in Meccan society. They are responsible from certain people that, either from the same tribe, so they are not spotted. They're going to their house, they meet with their neighbors, kind of thing. So Prophet ﷺ is using a very sophisticated strategy at that time to protect them, but not only protect them, he is also responsible to teach them. So if you don't, nurture them, teach the teachings of Islam, they are not spiritually, being educated, they are not nurtured. That's a problem as well. So that's why Prophet ﷺ utilized that strategy. So when we look at those people, we will now go through the interesting findings. When, as I said, this list is not the list of the all believers. The number of believers will exceed 200. By the end of Dar Al-Arqam, 110 of them or so, they already migrated to Abyssinia. Those people who migrated to Abyssinia in the 5th and 6th year, before Dar Al-Arqam ended, they are documented by names. We know them as well. That list also helps us to understand Dar Al-Arqam and the profile of those people. But those, group leads, as I said, that are in charge, they are very well known because, they say this person used to bring the revelation recited to me. As we said, Khabbab's case. He's responsible to teach them. So when we look at that, we will look from the various angles. First one is about in terms of the tribes. Look at this list and look at this chart. In Mecca, in Meccan society, remember that resettlement strategy I mentioned? In this Darun Nadwa, Meccans, they are located, they are settled based on their tribes in certain places of Mecca, right? So in that resettlement, 10 tribes are the major tribes in Mecca. They are, they are looking after certain significant services to Kaaba or to the Meccans or to the pilgrims in general. So those 10 tribes are all here in this list. Like those people who embraced Islam, there is one at least belongs to those 10 tribes, at least one. Basically, it means Mecca, those early Muslims, they are from all tribes of the Meccan society. This is very important information. Why? Because Prophet ﷺ is not allowing one tribe to dominate. Because this is a tribal structure, if one tribe becomes dominant in Dar Al-Arqam or among Muslims, that tribal practices, tradition is going to also change the nature of it, and they can easily say, this matter is about Bani Makhzum or Bani Umayyah or Bani Taym, Bani Tamim, Bani Amr. So Prophet ﷺ did not allow that one tribe is in charge and influencing this. So when you look at that, there are all tribes, particularly those 10 tribes that are very famous with taking certain responsibilities in Mecca. Several people are from each tribe. They are part of the Muslim community or part of Dar Al-Arqam. That's very interesting. So if we read this differently, and when we look at the chart again, those unknown or Abyssinian entries, they are foreigners. So not only from Mecca, everybody is involved, so pluralistic, society already, it's also in a way global. As I said, Islam already reached Abyssinia. Some people from Abyssinia, from Mosul, from different parts of the world, they are already Muslim, like Ayman. She is originally part of the army of elephant, Abraha. So coming from all the way from Yemen. And the family lineage goes back to that land. So Islam is already an appeal for various diverse group of people from day one. It really appealing to them, and it's not, the character is not one nationality or one tribe in that tribal society. That's a very important thing to notice. When we look at the gender balance in the community, I think there is no need to talk about the role of women or the perception of women in pre-Islamic Jahiliyyah period. So they are not taken into account, in a simple word. So they don't have rights. They are mostly, it's like a commodity. That's the perception of, Jahiliyyah people at that time. So now we are thinking about someone who is coming with this extraordinary message, which is under extreme pressure from the society, right? And it's very hard for them to come together. And when we look at the people who are part of this very small community, almost 30% of the community are women, which is very significant. That basically means these women, they are risking their life to come together with the Prophet ﷺ. And when you look at the age of these people, men or women, it's very young, very, very young. The age is, this chart shows a little bit higher actually, because we are including only those leaders, which includes Abu Bakr, which includes Ayman. Ayman, much older than Prophet ﷺ, right? It's mother for the Prophet ﷺ. So that's why the list is, almost 28. The average age is almost 28. But if you really look at the entire Muslims population, over 200 people, and what's the average age? It goes down to 20ish. 2021 or 19, around that mark. Very, very early, young companions, men and women. Like when we talk about Arqam, we are talking about, yes, a young boy. But when you look at the entire dynamics and demographic of the community, all the women, they embraced Islam in those early days. Like, Fatima, Sa'id ibn Zayd's wife, very young woman. But these people are going to make change. But this also teaches us from day one, Prophet ﷺ, he is emphasizing that these things cannot succeed without women. You can't just, assume that if you have enough manpower, courageous boys and support, this is going to succeed. Without women, nothing can succeed. You see that in many, history of prophets, you see pattern in many stories of the prophets before Islam. But with Islam as well, Prophet ﷺ, he is going to make them part of the major task. Some of them are group leads. Khadija, in that case, is an extraordinary woman which has access to so many different, avenues and people which normal people will not able to do that. So that's really teaching us from the life of the Prophet ﷺ. Prophet ﷺ walked with women and they were shouldering this task. They were not saying it's your... There is a very interesting story. One Hani, do you know Hani? Abu Talib's daughter, Ali's sister. So whether she was the first believers or not, there are interesting stories about this lady, for instance. One statement that I didn't know recently, I read that, I was shocked. When she embraced Islam, she says, the effort that we are going to show as women, if you are to show, the Meccan society had already completely transformed and embraced Islam. Like, it's one sentence, but the way they are speaking gives us a very good insight that, women are playing a very significant role that we are not really seeing that, because the narrative is dominated by certain people. They are just focusing on certain individuals most of the time. That's at the beginning of the message. That statement was very interesting. At the end as well, when Mecca is conquered, 20-some years later, who is left behind in Mecca? Who is preparing that society for that message? Why these people, they change their position within a day, right? Mecca is conquered, the following day, everybody is almost Muslim. How this transition is so smooth and easy? Because of women left in Mecca. Because women playing a significant role that we don't mostly see, that is told. So I just wanted to emphasize that part. Sisters particularly, take your lessons from this. Take your lessons and not just take a lesson as a theory, implement it. Take action, because we really need you as well. So another thing, like when we talk about Muslims, early Muslims, if I ask, who are the main Muslims, poor or wealthy, slaves or non-slaves, free people? Like, if you give me a figure that is majority of them, like mostly we think about, Bilal, Khabbab, Ammar, those stories. Yes, they are part of the story. Yes, because of their vulnerability, they became main target. But that doesn't mean Muslims were only those people, only weak people supported the Prophet ﷺ. Not at all. On the contrary, majority of those first believers, they are free people. They are wealthy people. They are people of position in the society. That is what Prophet ﷺ based his strategy on. Through these channels, that's why he asked Abu Dharr to go back. That's why he asked only few individuals to come to Dar Al-Arqam, because with those powerful people, he is going to reach out the entire society. He doesn't need to meet with everyone. Another thing is when you open up the house to everyone, people with different motivations will come as well, right? Not purely, sincerely coming to learn Islam. So you need to have some sort of a secrecy in that sense. So Prophet ﷺ, he really, look at the chart, you will see Abu Bakr. Abu Bakr is from Bani Taym tribe. His role in the society is dispute resolution. It's called Eshnak in Arabic. Eshnak means, you know, two people, two tribes, they are fighting. You need to go to judge and someone to make a judgment to resolve this issue. That's Abu Bakr in Mecca. Very powerful position. Think about Uthman radiallahu anh. No less powerful. You know, he is one of the wealthiest in Mecca, later on in Medina as well. So he is really going to make extraordinary effort to utilize this money. So Islam is going to, you know, establish in that society. So sometimes the narrative, or when we focus on the tortures and persecutions in Mecca, it really narrows the picture. And we sometimes think that, okay, only poor people, because they don't have support, vulnerable people, you know, slaves, he's giving right to slaves. So it really distorts the situation, the actual genuine story. So we need to be careful with that as well. Literacy, this is the most exciting and interesting part. So, you know, when we think about pre-Islamic era and Meccan society, the population of Mecca is around 10,000 people. 10,000 people. What do you think? How many people knew how to read and write in Mecca? There are various reports. One report from Balazuri, is a famous historian, writes about the history of Mecca. He says in Mecca, at that time, only 17 people knew how to read and write. I'm still chasing this information. My recent finding after, so this chart based on Balazuri, by the way, but my current thing is 57 current finding, because he excludes some names. You need to study, you know, all the sources, all the names. This person need to write, so you put on the list. So currently I'm around that mark. But when I was even talking about that, I was saying, okay, this is very, very moderate. Let's have 10 times more, 170. Right? Still very, very low. Literacy at that time is extremely low. We all need to understand this, because this is so critical to understand how Islam transformed the society completely. And this is so critical to understand the golden age of Islam, the first 5 centuries, the impact Islam made. This is so critical to understand why Qur'an started with Iqra, read. Like, without understanding this context, we cannot really properly appreciate what Islam is about, what Islam is offering, not to Meccan society. I am 100% confident that this data is also an exact reflection of the word at that time. Muhammad Hamidullah referred to this name a few minutes in the first part. He studied Chinese history, Roman, Sassanids, which means Persians, and Indian history around that time to see how is the literacy is looking like. It's not much different. Meccans, to some extent, are in a better position because it's on the crossroad of, you know, caravan trades and has interactions with different parts of the world at that time. So I'll pass that, but 17 people, let's say, or let's say 60 people, 100 people. So when you look at Dar Al-Arqam, out of those, you know, 45 people, and out of that 17 people, 10 of them, 8 of them, 100%, because that list doesn't include Arqam and Umar, so they also became part of it. Like, out of that 17, 10 people are already in Dar Al-Arqam. you can see what Prophet was doing. So they and some people, they ask, how do we know that Islam was protected, or Quran revelation was protected in those early days? Because the most literate people were his students. Dar Al-Arqam ibn Abi Al-Arqam, the family is one of the most literate family in Mecca. He knew how to read and write. Most interestingly, he becomes one of the foremost and ongoing Katibul Wahi, scribe of the Prophet for Wahi, Arqam. That's his biography, part of his life. So those things are really important. Let's take the questions then.
Just about the composition of Dar Al-Arqam. Saying that the distribution of the members are across various tribes and things like that. So then the members are chosen on what basis? Can you comment on that? So is it about loyalty to Islam? Is it about their trustworthiness? Or is it about where they come from?
So this is an excellent question. Actually, I'm writing a thing on this, and part of that, it's not on the slides, but I'm also finding out, what was the selection criteria. I use that word. What was the selection criteria for the Prophet, for Dar Al-Arqam? Selection criteria was decided by the Prophet and Abu Bakr. Like when we sit down and carefully read the sources, Abu Bakr's one, expertise is, as we said, Eshnak, resolving disputes. Most prominent personal skill is lineage. So he is Ansab Alim. Aisha, who is Abu Bakr's daughter, she is considered a lineage scholar as well because of that legacy, that knowledge. So Aisha narrates this you can't find this in sources. She says they used to sit in our house from night to the morning, Prophet and Abu Bakr, talking about each individual in Mecca. What we should do, how we can reach out to this person. So selection criteria is outcome of those discussions. So they are working on individuals based on that Ansab knowledge, where this family is coming from, what is their strength, this and that. So they are identifying people who are not going to be a burden on them. They are not going to create problems, solve problems. They are not going to, make things complicated, make things easy for them. So Prophet ﷺ and Abu Bakr, Prophet also ﷺ, he knows the community very well. He has a fatana, prophetic intellect. So when he meets with someone, that's enough. He scans his, everything of that person. So he's well across. Like that's why when he was meeting with Arqam, he's showing himself, knew how to approach him, and he hooked him, if you like. And he came and he embraced. So he knows the strategy in a way. So that's one thing. But that's reading the story from the beginning. We can also read the story from the end. So those people are selected. Did any one of them treacherous out of these people? Like later on they said, okay, this is too hard. I'm paying a lot of price for this. I'm not going to be part of it. So it's an extraordinary selection, it means. So that worked. So, and that also gives us insight about the selection criteria. They are working on people, they have right skills, knowledge, and potential to actually contribute. So let's say he is going to come to Dar Al-Arqam, become one of the leads of a group. So he should have enough potential, knowledge, and resources to go out, deliver that message. His skills, right skills should be there. They are going to upskill them. That's the last part of the presentation today. Prophet is going to really, teach them a lot in many ways, but he really targeted right potentials, right people for this task, which is extraordinarily important and at that very, very sensitive early days of Islam. Now that we talked about emergence of this Dar Al-Arqam, we talked about who is coming together with the Prophet ﷺ in this house. How long this is going to take? But one pertinent question is what they were doing there. Like what was their major occupation? If we are talking about teachings, like sometimes people, they assume that this house is just to keep them secret. So time to time meet the prophets with the Prophet, because they can't meet with him in open spaces. It's not like that. He is really going to implement a strategy, and he is going to deliver a curriculum. It is the first madrasa of Islam. It's the first model of education facilities. It is the most critical institution in the life of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I'm not exaggerating, because this is the first 6.5 years. If it wasn't for this and those community are educated there, how they are going to challenge and how they are going to respond to much harder difficulties like boycott 3 days after this incident. How they are going to challenge those, they happen to go out, like they were forced to leave the city, migration. How they are going to challenge those armies later on, because this was individually targeting them in Mecca. In Medina, Meccans are coming with armies, much more powerful, and this time is really big groups. So how they're going to challenge that? Later on, the thing will be even complicated. Other communities, not only Meccans, Jewish communities, Romans and Persians. Like I'll tell you something very interesting. Like the Battle of Badr, right? Battle of Badr happened in the 2nd year of Hijrah in Medina. Later on, 15 years after, revelation began. Some of the Muslims, they went to Abyssinia in the 5th, 6th year of the prophethood. Abyssinian king did not give them back to Meccans, right? And years later, this incident happened. What's the incident? Battle of Badr. Abyssinian king calls Ja'far ibn Abi Talib. He asks him to come to his palace, and he says, my spy in the region, in your region, in Medina, he told me that our prophet, because he embraced Islam, was successful against Meccans. Even an Abyssinian king has spies around Mecca, Medina. Who are the most powerful states at that time? Romans and Persians. They wouldn't have interest in Mecca and Medina at that time. Not a possibility, right? So now you can see many other aspects that Prophet is not going to challenge Meccans or people in Medina, Jews, hypocrites, this and that. He is now in the global stage already by the time he is in Medina. If these people are not going through extraordinary, well-structured education in terms of their spirituality, in terms of their intellectual capacity, in terms of their scientific knowledge, in terms of their organization skills, in terms of this and that, how are they going to face these problems that are going to emerge later on? And we all believe Prophet was a universal prophet. What is he going to teach if he doesn't have enough to tell us in many aspects of our lives? So those things gives us really very important clues that this period was necessary. Dar Al-Arqam, education in Dar Al-Arqam from various angles was necessary. Then we need to then study what was the curriculum like, what he was teaching his companions there. So we will focus on 3-4 things here. Before we begin, this analogy of a building is a nice analogy, which I really like. Some says this was from Ibn Abbas. Some says no, it was, Imam Ghazali saying. Regardless, so they resemble Islam to 4-level building. So Islam has 4 levels, they say. Level 1 is creed, belief. Believing in Allah, believing in angels, akhirah, prophethood, this and that. Level 2, we sometimes jump on these levels. We jump from 1 to 4. These levels are really important, right? So first aqidah, then akhlaq. This level is according to revelation as well. So this is how revelation came. So he focused on aqidah, focused on akhlaq, and then focused on ibadat and muamalat. Ibadat means worship. You need to pray, fast, and then muamalat, when you have a transaction, you need to follow certain rules, Islamically speaking. So this building is really important, and it gives us insight about the Prophet's curriculum in Dar Al-Arqam, or Islam, how Islam taught certain things gradually. It wasn't in one go that you need to learn everything and observe and practice, right? But it was gradual, but certain things are emphasized. At the beginning, aqidah and akhlaq is emphasized. These are fundamental. The other 2 levels, apart from prayer 5 times a day, they all came in Medina. No ruling is established in Mecca in terms of ibadat or in terms of muamalat. There is no single verse that is revealed apart from verses that are relevant to prayer. Prayer is important. Prayer is our major sustenance. When we believe in Allah, we need to make that connection strong. And that's why in early days, one of the first verses that are revealed, Ya ayyuhal muzammil, qumil layla illa qalila. You need to almost establish the prayer throughout the night except for few. Very high bar in those early days. And some of the members of Dar Al-Arqam took this literally. They were praying all night almost. So you see how strong their connection is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Without that, you can't challenge oppression if you don't have that strong belief and strong connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But let's now, and another interesting insight is, like, we are talking about first 6 years. Also, it is important to keep in mind which verses are revealed in that period. So there are varying numbers, but one number is this number, 3,100. I'm still working on this chart, and whether, I took this from a very detailed study which focused on the revelation, gradually, chronologically what verses are revealed. So this is one opinion. I'm a little bit still suspectful, but don't forget, Mecca verses are very short. Qul huwallahu ahad. Ya ayyuhal muddassir. This is one verse. It doesn't mean, figure, number doesn't mean it's one half of the Qur'an. So just keep that in mind. So, but we clearly know that at least this is, well established. Just before Dar Al-Arqam ended, Surah Taha revealed. Surah Taha was the 44th chapter that is revealed to the Prophet ﷺ. So, but keep this in mind, that substantial amount of the Quran, like 1/3 of the Quran, almost revealed by the end of this. Why this is important? Because rest of the things that I'm going to explain or say, this was the curriculum, they were doing this, mainly they were discussing the revelation, what it teaches, because they are guided primarily by revelation. Quran was their major curriculum. So he was teaching aqidah, teaching akhlaq, and certain other things.